This video is about the full moon in the sign of Aquarius on the 29th of July, and also with tarot insights and I Ching guidance. So welcome. This full moon in Aquarius is happening on the 29th of July. It is happening at 6 degrees of Aquarius. And where I'm at in South Africa, it's happening at 16:36 in the afternoon. Now, as we have with a full moon, the sun and the moon are opposite each other. And we are dealing with this axis of the Leo and Aquarius parts of our charts. Now, this is a very interesting full moon for the reason that the true nodes have just moved into the signs of Leo and Aquarius. So there's more emphasis on these parts of our charts at the moment. And as with the nodes stay in these opposite pairs of signs for around about 18 months. So for the next 18 months, we're going to have this emphasis here between growth potentials and balancing out of energies between the Leo and Aquarius parts of our charts. And this is not an eclipse. However, we are in eclipse season. And I truly want to say that the energy of this full moon is such that it might actually feel like an eclipse, because there's a lot of depth and also expansion and a real strength to this full moon, which I will get into now. So naturally, this full moon will fall for each person in a different part of our charts. Collectively, what we are working with between Aquarius and Leo is mostly, with Leo, we are working with ourselves, our own hearts, how we step into our own leadership, how we show up, how we are being in the world as individuals, opening up to our hearts and new ways of being in the world. And then opposite that, we have Aquarius. And in Aquarius, we deal with that sense of the collective needs, how groups of people, collectives of people influence the world, how things develop. Aquarius is very forward-thinking, technological, and very much to do with what masses of people actually need. So you can see, with opposite parts of the chart, there's always a kind of opposite balancing that needs to occur. And so with Leo Aquarius, it's always, how do I as an individual fit into the collective? How do I bring myself to the collective? Am I a follower? Am I a leader? How does this balance play out for me in my life? Now, the moon is sitting in Aquarius, so the moon is being illuminated in that part of the chart that is all about the collective energies. And the moon is sitting with the planet Pluto. So what this means is that the moon with Pluto really deepens our feelings. Often at the time of a full moon, we are able to go deeper into our feelings anyway. The moon is very much about our feelings and how we connect to our inner beings and our bodies in general. And when the moon is sitting conjunct Pluto, Pluto helps us to go even deeper. It can also sometimes feel uncomfortable when the moon is conjunct Pluto, because Pluto helps us to deal with shadow aspects. Pluto can bring things to light that may have been buried for a whole lifetime because we were not ready in our energy and our frequency to actually deal with what is sitting there. So it can be uncomfortable, and yet it is also a gift. what Pluto can excavate for us and really bring to light can be so growthful and healing and transformative and beneficial, even though it may be uncomfortable to go through that process. So we have that happening in Aquarius. Now, the sun being in the sign of Leo is illuminating the moon in Aquarius, and the sun is sitting with Jupiter. This is very, very special because the exact conjunction of the sun, or the cazimi, occurred almost exactly 2 hours before this full moon. So technically at the time of this full moon, Jupiter is still conjunct cazimi to the sun. So Jupiter's energy is being amplified. When a planet is at the cazimi point, it strengthens all the best qualities of that planet at this time. So when it comes to Jupiter, Jupiter expands things. It can bring us opportunities for development and just expansive feelings in terms of possibilities. Jupiter deals in general with the rules and philosophies that we believe and live by in our individual lives as a society, how we connect to laws, to religion, to spiritual systems, to faith systems, all of these things that really influence us in a deep spiritual and also in a way of how we connect to society in terms of laws and rules followed or not followed, or what is suiting individuals and society at this time or no longer. So there's a big emphasis here of the expansion that Jupiter can bring at this time, and even expanding the light of the sun in terms of what is being able to be illuminated on the other side of the chart between the moon and Pluto. So you can see that this is very, very deep and also very expansive and also amplified. And this is why I'm saying this full moon can feel a bit like an eclipse, because I feel that this energy at the time of this full moon can bring a lot of sudden change, expansion, and really illuminating things for us that we may have buried for a long time, and that we can now really transform shadow paths into a completely new way of being. The ruler of this full moon, Saturn, has basically just turned retrograde. So what this means is that the ruling planet has such a strong influence over what is happening in the sign that it rules. So the moon and Pluto are in this sign ruled by Saturn. Saturn has basically now stood still in the vicinity of that 14-degree mark, 14 degrees of Aries, from the 1st of July. And because of that feeling of standing still before it turns retrograde, it's going to be at this 14-degree mark between the 1st of July and the 25th of August. So you can see how this can feel like a very slow standstill point for all of us. With this standstill of Saturn, when a planet is stationed like this around a certain degree of the zodiac, the energy of Saturn is really amplified. So the feelings and the energy that Saturn can bring at the time of this full moon can feel heavy. It can allow us to really tap into things that we need to say no to. It can open up places for us where we really are working with our boundaries and things that we would like to transcend in more transformative, positive, easy flowing ways. Saturn can also bring a real stillness and a real wisdom to what we are going through. So with this slow, almost standing Saturn at this time, this energy can feel like something we need to sink into. It's not going to feel like something that's just going to be, quick, we're flowing through this and we're out on the other side. So we are in eclipse season. On the 12th of August, we are going to have an eclipse in the sign of Leo. And with this current slow moving Saturn, the energy of this full moon can really still be working itself out all the way until the end of August. So there is a big influence here of this month and next month that we can still be working with these energies. So I drew a card for the entire energy of this full moon chart, and I received the King of Wands. Now this is a very interesting card because obviously it's a wand card, so this card is very related to the fire element. And what comes up with this card that we are all invited into and invited to look at the time of this full moon. Those opposites between Leo and Aquarius could possibly feel very intense for us this week. And this card is inviting us to step into our leadership in some way, even if it is just your self-leadership in your own life. And to find that sense of your inner leader, how you can lead yourself. And if you are a leader of others, stepping into a new way of leading there as well. And this card is very much about vision, inviting in maybe a completely new long-term vision because of what you are now seeing in these parts of your chart and things that are really illuminated. And the invitation here is also to do whatever we do with a sense of honor. And we may be feeling very, very deeply at this time. So developing new ways of being with our feelings, what is coming up, and still proceeding in our lives, our vision, our leadership in very honorable ways. And then this card is also about passion. Pluto and the moon together can definitely bring out a sense of passion in terms of new things that are now available to us that we can bring our passion towards. So this energy actually feels very good for this full moon in terms of, the king here, the King of Wands. He is grounded, very, very grounded, but in a passionate way. So this is a beautiful energy that we are invited to step into if this is available to us at the time of this full moon. Now, I also drew a card for just the Aquarius side of the energy, which is the moon and Pluto together. And for this, I received the Two of Wands. And this is fascinating because it is that entire energy of everything that is available to us. And yet, with the two cards, it's often about choice points as well. But what we are invited into with this moon conjunct Pluto here is bringing a sense of being willing to explore And maybe, you know, like I said, willing to explore things that feel really uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, we know that if I allow myself to actually explore this thing, it's going to bring me to a very transformative place. So this card is also very much about foresight, you know, thinking about how my actions now will actually influence my future endeavors. And this card is very much about standing firm, you know, in your personal power as well. So you can really tap into the power of Pluto. Pluto often deals with power dynamics. So in this full moon, this may be one of the things that come to light for us, is where we have lost a sense of our inner power, and where things feel unbalanced, and how we can really reclaim that personal power for ourselves, and to bring your aspirations also with this card. We're definitely invited to do that, and to feel into the balance for each of us of how we work with aspiration and taking action. Is there a balance there? Like, how do we work with planning and action and all of these energies? So this is for the moon and Pluto. And then I drew a card for the other side, which is the Jupiter and the Sun sitting at 6 degrees of Leo. And what I received for this is the Five of Wands. Now, the Five of Wands often is that invitation for us to look at how we deal with conflict, how we approach even just an inner sense of conflict. Often when this card shows up, it's not necessarily about dealing with conflicts on the outside. It very much can be. So hold both of those things. This can be about an inner conflict or an outer conflict. But the invitation here with this card showing up is, how do I approach my own inner tension? How do I approach conflict inside me or on the outside? Am I gentle? Am I open? And the invitation with this card is to develop a sense of mindfulness, you know, to see how we react in those times when maybe we feel absolutely defeated, you know. One of the symbologies of this card is those feelings of just feeling defeated by what life has dealt you, by what experiences are showing up for you in the world right now. And the invitation here is really to approach with gentleness, kindness, and work with the tension and the conflict in the absolute best way you can. You know, there are moments where real, true spiritual anger is truly the best way to show up. And then there are moments when we need to be more gentle with ourselves, with others, in how we deal with these things. Now, what I've talked about before, and which is still very much active at the time of this full moon, is the basket formation that is forming, or that has been forming between Jupiter, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. Now, of course, at the time of this full moon, this basket is properly activated again, because the moon is sitting with Pluto and the sun is sitting with Jupiter. So this basket is literally illuminated at the time of this full moon. So yes, this full moon feels like the tension may be amplified, but also the potential for growth and transformation is also amplified. And the basket formation feels very supportive at the time of this full moon. Now, the basket deals with such incredible short-term and long-term transformative energies because we've got Jupiter, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus all in the mix. And they deal with such deep, vast concepts with our hearts, with our minds, with our spirituality, with our higher thinking. All of these things can go through incredible shifts at the time that we're in this basket, and this is going to still be active in different ways for the next few years. But there's definitely a sense of support here. Now, what showed up for the basket energy is the Ten of Cups. And you can see and feel the energy of this card. So this is why I'm saying the basket is bringing a lot of support at the time of this full moon. Because this card is about connection. It's about family. It's about a sense of, you know, they're throwing their arms in the air. They're grateful for what they've got. The Ten of Cups is very much a card of just like emotionally feeling that your cup is full, and life is presenting you with beautiful things and support. So there's an invitation here for us, if we are going through challenges, more tension like things maybe at the time of this full moon, to also invite in those places where we do feel harmony, where we do feel fulfillment, and to work with those places where we do feel aligned, and to be open to good things, you know, and finding that sense of love and support in places where that can be found for all of us. Then the last aspect that I want to talk about at the time of this full moon is the square that is still happening between Venus and Mars. Mars is at 21 degrees of Gemini, and Venus is at 21 degrees of Virgo. So there's a tension for the collective and attention for each of us between the areas of Gemini and Virgo. And this could be, again, inner or outer tension, conflict, the urge to grow in ways that feel uncomfortable. And this is all, you know, with Mars and Venus around inner and outer, masculine and feminine. What tensions are showing up, what feels challenging in terms of how we deal with masculine and feminine dynamics at this time. What showed up for this is the Ten of Swords. Now, the Ten of Swords is such an uncomfortable image to look at because it does donate a sense of real pain. You know, it can be a place where collectively we even realize the pain that is still present for each of us, for the collective, in terms of masculine and feminine dynamics. You know, how people are struggling with relationships, how people are even moving more towards technology and less towards real connection. You know, all of these challenging things that are present for the collective at this time can be very alive at the time of this full moon. And yet when the Ten of Swords shows up, it's very much about the end of a painful cycle as well. So this square between Venus and Mars at the time of this full moon can really help us to transcend a place and end a cycle that may have been very painful in terms of Mars and Venus related things. So The last thing I want to share is my I Ching guidance that I received for this full moon. I threw the coins and I received hexagram number 9. It is called small accumulating. And the gist of this hexagram and the invitation for all of us here is that at the time of this full moon, we may be dealing with a whole lot of different things. And they all seem unrelated, but yet they're not. All the different small things that are showing up at this time, the way we deal with each one, it's going to influence the overall outcome of what is unfolding. And the invitation coming from this hexagram is to take small, gentle steps and to be flexible and to persist in our efforts, to keep walking towards the goals that we would like. And you can see even this feels like it's related to Saturn in that slowness of the energy, in the small steps that we need to take. There is a changing line, and the changing line is find your center before moving forward and be open to new ideas. So there's a real sense here at the time of this full moon. There may be a lot happening. We may be dealing with a lot of different things. And what is going to serve us is in whatever way we best can to find our center, to find a place of stillness. And then this changing line, the third changing line, changes hexagram number 9 into number 61. And this is also about centering. It says, connect your inner and your outer life. Move with the natural flow. Be sincere, truthful, and reliable. Empty your heart and mind so that you can hear. So this sentence, empty your heart and mind so that you can hear, I feel this so strongly for this Jupiter, Sun, Pluto, Moon opposition dynamic that we've got going here. Because this may be a time of really emptying out our hearts to come to lightness, emptying our minds so that we come to clarity. And through this, finding that center that we need to move forward. So this is all the guidance that I've got for this full moon. I wish you an absolutely beautiful, beautiful full moon. I hope that you can find your center, stay in your center. The most important thing is to be authentic. If you're sad, if you're angry, feel those things, let them flow through, and then come to your center. You know, be authentic, let whatever wants to come. Allow and let that flow. And please connect with me at my links below. I'm still offering my monthly programs. Please join my Moon Wisdom Lab if you want to know more about the houses in your chart, how the moon flows through our charts every single month, and get to know astrology from a very embodied way. And I also offer personal sessions in many different ways. I can assist you with any question, challenge point that you have in your life. I love doing personal sessions and connecting with clients in that way. Thank you so much for being here. Please share this if you find value. It really helps my channel to grow. I love all your comments and likes, and I will see you again soon.